My name is Hannah Mathis, and I'm the president of Repair, which stands for Restoring, Educating, and Preparing Southwest Florida. Our leadership class put together an initiative to create a Zoom forum where we interviewed multiple people that have experience in affordability and sustainability after natural disasters such as Hurricane Ian. Take a look.
So we'll get started. So hello, Brenda. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for our repair interview. I know that we've had some last minute changes, but we're definitely going to try to make it work, and we appreciate you joining us this afternoon. I'm going to introduce you first before we start to our interviewers. So we have Abby, and then
hi, Abby.
We also have Abby on the far right. They're
hi,
both
Abby. Abby squared.
So we just want to thank you again, and we hope that all that you do as a professor and being the director for Colloquium, you can shed some knowledge on the situation and your experiences. And yeah, thanks.
Excellent.
Thank you again. So
okay, so for my first question, I just have, within your role in sustainability, was there any after effect that you were surprised about?
Surprised me? No, is the short answer. When we talk about sustainability, and Angel certainly knows this, we did this for an entire semester. In my classroom specifically, and in a lot of other colloquium classrooms as well, we really focus on the connectedness of human and natural systems. And so after the hurricane, the Hurricane Ian and Nicole were really tough, but really effective teachable moments, just like the red tide outbreak was when it was really, really bad after Hurricane Irma, in demonstrating the connectedness of those systems, of the human systems and the non-human systems. So to see what nature at full strength, at the strength of a category 4, category 5 hurricane can do to human systems, so it didn't surprise me. It just affirmed those things that that we talk about in class all the time. As humans, we try to, oftentimes we look at ourselves as being separate from those natural systems, and we are, I think, sometimes arrogant and short-sighted and a little bit foolish when we try to pretend like we're not part of the system. That's when we get ourselves into trouble.
So going off of that, what are the main changes you would suggest for a more sustainable Southwest Florida, specifically in the terms of natural disasters?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. Trying to strike a balance between protecting and preserving our natural systems so that they can continue to provide ecosystem services like flood protection and water storage and water purification and pollination and all of those things. Trying to balance protecting those things with allowing the growth and development that's required for people to be prosperous here, to thrive here, the vast numbers of people that want to move and to live in Southwest Florida. Striking a balance between those things is really, really difficult. And I'm glad I'm not a decision maker who at the end of the day has to make those decisions about how to allow or not allow those things to happen. So one of the things, and you all have seen the growth and development that's happening across Southwest Florida right now. There are in its apartment complexes in particular that I keep seeing going up on every street corner. And that when those things are full, there are going to be that many more people living here and relying on our resources and traffic on the roads and so on. But the thing that there's one particular area of growth development that's happening, that's on my drive home every day, that really has me reflecting and scratching my head about what we're doing in Southwest Florida. And that is the development that's happening when you're headed past the airport. And so it's the west side of Tree Line, between Tree Line and 75. So it's a huge area that was cleared several years ago, and now they're hauling dump truck after dump truck after dump truck of fill into this massive area so that they can build on it. And it's probably going to be warehouses or industry or something like that. So what I keep thinking as I watch that happen is, okay, we've just had this significant hurricane. We are dealing with the impacts of red tide, in part from that hurricane, in part from, a number of other complicated things. And yet we continue to allow this kind of growth and development to happen. When all of that area is filled and there's a parking lot on it and warehouses on it, whatever, the ecosystems that lived there, that existed there prior, are not going to be able to provide that flood protection and all of those things. But if I'm a decision maker and I say, nope, you can't do that, you're going to have to keep that in, and it's not even a natural state because it was a highly disturbed area anyway. But if I'm going to tell those landowners, nope, you can't build there, that affects their bottom line. That affects the services, the products that, that those companies would provide to the people that do want to live here. So, in thinking about making recommendations about how to rebuild after the fact, there's a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration. And and at the end of the day, I'm glad I'm not the decision maker who's trying to balance those things, because it's really, really tough.
So in regards to your role at FGCU, what was your experience like after the hurricane? And what did you see in your classes in terms of the personal effect on students or faculty?
Yeah. So my role as colloquium director, is to support faculty and students regardless of what's going on. And fortunately, and I say fortunately loosely, because we had experienced the COVID-19 pandemic, we knew how to pivot classes from in-person to online. What I found after Hurricane Ian, though, it was more challenging, quite frankly, for faculty and students as well. Everybody coming into the fall semester was just exhausted after 2 years of COVID, looking forward to something that felt reasonably normal again, and then to have Hurricane Ian happen was a significant challenge. One more thing that didn't allow us to return to some semblance of normal. And then everybody was affected by the hurricane, whether you had physical, structural damage, whether you lost, cars or homes or whatever, or not. The emotional toll of that hurricane was significant. So to try to support faculty and students to have any kind of quality learning experience continue when people didn't have, and it wasn't just that they didn't have internet, but it was the things that we take for granted, like electricity, like water, like food, those kinds of things. So to be trying to support them to have a quality learning experience when they were struggling with those kinds of day-to-day things was really, really challenging.
Thank you. In what ways would a sustainable Southwest Florida impact the efficiency of our community, and how would this benefit schools and houses and businesses?
Y'all are asking tough questions. Well, a sustainable community is going to be one that manages to strike the balance that I've been referring to. So finding ways to protect the natural world that we live within and depend upon, but at the same time allowing people to live their best lives. And all people. I want to emphasize that it's all people. When we think about sustainability, oftentimes folks focus just on the environmental side of things. And it's really, really important to remember that there are people who live within those environments that we depend on. And unfortunately, the people who don't get to benefit from many of our initiatives are the ones, the ones that are marginalized. So when I think about a sustainable community, I think about a community of equity and justice, and equity and justice for all of the living members of that community. And that's human and non-human. So, and again, y'all are asking tough questions, because there's finding that balance to make sure that people and prosperity and planet are all cared for at the same time is it's a really, really tricky one. And it's one that my generation in some cases was aware of, but the issues that we face were not as salient. They were not as apparent, and it's not something that my generation thought about a whole lot. You all give me hope, because you all see, your generation seems to be far more sensitive and compassionate about these things, much more so than what my generation was.
So what would your response be to anyone who is not concerned with changing to a sustainable Southwest Florida?
That would be a very careful conversation. The first question I think that we all need to ask ourselves is what do we mean by sustainable? A lot of folks define sustainable in different ways. I can look at a sustainable healthcare system, and is that reducing waste? Is that access to healthcare? What does that look like? I can look at sustainable food systems and talk about organic, or you can talk about food deserts. And so making sure that those marginalized populations have access to healthy food. You can talk about eutrophication and dead zones because of fertilizer and that sort of thing. You can talk about sustainable business and ESG investing strategies, or you can just talk about the sustainability of keeping a business running from day in and day out. So it's important to make sure that we're all on the same page about exactly what we mean when we say sustainability. What is it that we're trying to sustain? And making sure that it's not sustaining business as usual, because that's not going to work. Ignoring conversations about sustainability is to the detriment of our kids and our grandkids and great-grandkids, because these issues are only going to become more difficult to solve moving forward and more urgent. We're not going to be able to ignore many of these issues for much longer.
So that's all the questions that we have. Thank you for that.
Okay. Yep.
Is there anything that you want to kind of like shed light on that you think that like after we leave this interview and everything that it's something that we should think about moving forward with like these issues of sustainability, affordable housing, and like hurricanes in general?
Yeah, I want to encourage or applaud you all, first of all, for the efforts that you have put into this work. I know that the outcome is not what you all had hoped that it was going to be, but I have no doubt that you have learned some important lessons along the way. And again, your generation gives me hope. And so kudos to you all for seeing these, these things as important. The thing that I try to leave my class with when I teach every semester is that you all do have the power to make a difference. So you can exercise that by your, voting at the polling place, but also voting with your dollars. you know, when you go to the grocery store, when you, whatever it is that you're spending money on, industry pays attention to that, businesses pay attention to that. So they're gonna pay attention to the things that you all are supporting. And, you know, the administration at the university, the powers that be in state politics and in national politics, you know, those people listen to individuals, and that's me as well, not just you. I'm not putting that blame just on you, but as individuals, it's up to us to make a difference, and that's something that I try to always leave my students with.
Well, all right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming.
You are welcome. Good luck with your work, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.